This right here is incredibly important news, and topics like this are, coincidentally, the kinds of videos I make over on my new STIX Reacts channel, which I urge you to go ahead and subscribe to if you haven't already. Before we go any further, I just want to take a moment here to thank all of the absolute chads and chadettes that support this channel via Patreon. You're all freaking legends, seriously, each and every single one of you. I would offer to give each of you a kiss, but I suffer from severe intimacy issues. Additionally, if you want to stay up to date with all the latest MMO gacha and gaming news, take a second here to follow MRSSTIX and I over on Twitter. We tweet daily. Now, the reason this is as important as it is because it pertains to not only the delay of Throne and Liberty into the first half of 2023, which, let's be real here, we kind of expected anyway, but it also pertains to Aion 2, the sequel to the critically acclaimed Aion MMO that still exists to this day. Now, thanks to RuliWeb, who actually posted the full conference call for NCSoft's second quarter 2022 financials, we have all of this information in an easily digestible format, and we're going to go through all of this bit by bit. Now, this was translated initially from Korean, so it's not 100% accurate, but it is roughly as accurate as we are realistically gonna get. Now, NCSoft announced its results for the second quarter of the fiscal year of 2022 today and disclosed its specific sales and operating profit. NCSoft sales in the second quarter were 629 billion won, operating profit is 123 billion won. The second quarter of fiscal 2022, NCSoft sales increased by 17% compared to the same period last year. It was recorded at 629 billion won, down 20% from the previous quarter. That is actually pretty large, a very steep decline. Although Lineage W sales are, I mean, let's be honest here, nobody cares about the Lineage mobile games, really. None of us, at least as PC MMO players, give a damn about the Lineage mobile games. But you know what? They apparently have a significant impact. Operating profits increased by 9% from the same period last year, but decreased by 50% from the previous quarter. It was found that the growth of mobile games is affecting operating profit, and operating profit was lower than the previous quarter due to an increase in additional expenses such as marketing. So they made less money because they spent more money on advertising crappy mobile games that didn't see as large of a return as they were anticipating seeing. Well, that's what happens when you develop crappy mobile games, right? Looking at the sales composition by game, most of the sales are mobile. It also happens through Lineage W. In the second quarter, Lineage W sales were about 223 billion won, accounting for about 35% of the total mobile game sales of 475 billion won. This is a decrease of 149 billion won from the 373 billion won recorded in the previous quarter. If the sales of Lineage W showed record high growth in the fourth quarter of last year and the first quarter of this year, this growth slowed down in the second quarter and it can be said to be stabilizing. In addition, NCSoft announced that as of July of this year, the cumulative sales of Lineage W exceeded Korean 1 trillion won. I have no, you know what? Let's go ahead here and 1 trillion won in US dollars. What is that? $763,802,700. So Lineage W has made approximately $765 million since it launched. You want to know how much Diablo Immortal is currently making per month? A measly $20 to $30 million. Now, on the other hand, Genshin Impact is still making upwards of 100 million a month. In the case of other mobile titles such as Blade and Soul 2, who nobody cares about, and Lineage 2M, who nobody cares about, they continue to show downward stability. Overall, it was found that sales are declining for most of the time. It is actually declining for almost all of NCSoft's games, but Lineage M showed an increase in. So what they're saying is Aion, Blade and Soul, the Lineage games, The Guild Wars games are all doing terribly. Lineage M recorded 115 billion won in the first quarter from 88 billion won in the fourth quarter of last year. Sales increased to 141 billion won in the second quarter. In this regard, NC said, Lineage M is still maintaining the #1 position in the domestic market and is producing encouraging results. We're looking forward to good results in the second half of the year. In the case of PC online games, and this is where it's important for us as predominantly PC MMO gamers, sales of 95 billion won were recorded in the second quarter. This accounts for about 15% of their total sales, and sales are being counted at a similar level for 3 consecutive quarters. So overall PC revenue seems to be stabilized at the 90 to 100 billion won range, is what I'm getting from this. Lineage's sales have stabilized since last quarter, and this quarter's sales reached 25 billion won. The overall sales of the PC Online division showed a slight increase in sales compared to the first quarter, and this was influenced by the release of the expansion pack for Guild Wars 2. Currently, Guild Wars 2 is preparing to be released on Steam within the year, which is definitely going to show an uptick in not only concurrent players, but also revenue, and updates are scheduled to continue after that. And admittedly, Guild Wars 2 is probably one of their only still good, successful PC games available, especially to us as Western players. Looking at sales by region, domestic sales still account for the majority of NCSoft's total sales. Domestic sales decreased by 19% compared to the previous quarter to 408 billion won, accounting for about 64% of total sales. Compared to the previous quarter, when sales in Korea and Asia were brisk, both fell. So it looks like the Western market accounts for 36% of total revenue for NC's games. However, overseas and royalty sales increased by 21% compared to the same period last year. So the overall sales, counting Korea and global, were down, but at the same time, overall global sales were up. And that's what they go on to note here by stating that the overall sales were showing a decrease, but the proportion of royalties within North America and Europe is relatively increasing. In terms of cost composition, it recorded 500 billion won, an increase of 19% from the same period last year. As the impact of salary increase has already been reflected, the proportion of labor costs decreased by 5% to 200 billion without much change. In the case of marketing expenses, it was gradually decreasing from 118 billion won in the fourth quarter of last year when Lineage W was launched, but is showing an increase this quarter. Marketing expenses in the last quarter were 41 billion won. Okay, don't really care about the marketing. Meanwhile, NCSoft announced its future plans through this earnings announcement. NCSoft said this second quarter was a time to confirm NCSoft's MMORPG capabilities, and that's true. NCSoft confirmed earlier this year that Throne and Liberty had a guaranteed release date of 2022, sometime likely in the fourth quarter. So October, November, December. And players immediately laughed because we all doubted that that would in fact be the case. In terms of platform, it announced plans to expand beyond PC and mobile to consoles, which is what Throne and Liberty was confirmed to be releasing cross-platform onto, PC and console, completely disregarding mobile. Throne and Liberty, which is currently under development, is currently being tested by 3,000 internal employees. We have very high expectations. If you have 3,000 beta testers for your game before releasing, it better work. You have successfully completed this, and after that, NCSoft said that it was preparing an opportunity to introduce Throne and Liberty to global gamers soon. In addition, NC plans to release 4 new titles to the global market by 2023, including the collectible RPG title Blade and Soul S, which absolutely nobody is going to care about. We have the Battle Royale game Project R, and let's be real, nobody's gonna care about a Korean battle royale game. In addition, new PC and console products released from 2024 are also being prepared, and through this, NCSoft's entire portfolio will be solid. Below is the content of the questions answered after the earnings announcement. The question and answer was conducted in the form of a conference call, and NCSoft executives responded to the analysts' questions. They went on to ask, please check the release schedule of Throne and Liberty again. Are you still aiming for a release within the year? Or what kind of disclosure will follow in the next quarter? In addition, there has been a recent report on the distribution method of Throne and Liberty. Which platform will you choose? I wonder if I should use an external publisher. If it's too hard to mention specifically, please tell me the pros and cons of these options. They went on to reply to that by stating, as reported in the media recently, Throne and Liberty is discussing the best timing and partner for strategic overseas expansion. And I just want to note here, as I posted on my channel, they did very strongly allude to the reason the game was delayed into 2023 being that they have secured Amazon Game Studios, the people that are currently publishing Lost Ark and that develop New World, as their global publisher for the game. The reason is that Throne and Liberty is somehow in the domestic game, especially in MMORPGs. It has important implications for success abroad. It does, because Guild Wars 2 is pretty much their only globally recognized and successful MMO, which we previously had in terms of open innovation rather than the way it was done. How to collaborate internally and externally available for success. We're thinking strategically about whether we can create synergies. Currently, it is scheduled for the first half of 2023. So a lot of us content creators have done videos on Throne and Liberty. I've done videos on it, so has Peon, Kira. I think Force Gaming also just did a video on it like a week and a half ago, and we were all saying that the game is coming this year because that is what they confirmed. That is no longer the case. That doesn't mean that any of us are less excited to play it though. It just means that we're going to be a little bit more disappointed having it delayed until next year. With Lineage W sales trending downward and stabilizing, how should we view the QOQ trend for the third quarter? Please reply. I understand that it predicts the next quarter while applying the decline rate of existing games such as Lineage M and Lineage 2M. We expect the third quarter to follow this trend as well. One thing I can add though is that the Giran update in August was successful. The number of payment users also recorded the highest number since the Aion update. Considering that the update is successfully applied, it seems likely that it could bring results in the long run. Throne and Liberty's in-game sales level. Please tell me the nature of the items, and although it's a bit early, I'm curious about the schedule of Aion 2. See, this is where it gets interesting because up until this point, we hadn't really had any information about a sequel to Aion. When was Aion 2 confirmed? How long has Aion 2 been in development? Is it being developed with Unreal Engine 4? Unreal Engine 5? Is it also going to be receiving a global release? Because Aion is still a pretty big game. It might have a very small population now, but it is arguably one of the best tab target PvP MMOs still available. And the release date of Projects E and M. Of course, Throne and Liberty's business model is not yet specific, so it's unconfirmed if it's going to be free to play, buy to play, or pay to play. It's interesting, but detailed product composition will be revealed at a later date as a way of bridging the gap between users and common sense. It is being designed in a way that avoids pay to win. Korean game, no pay to win. I fail to see how that's possible based off of the entire history of pay-to-win Korean MMOs. As a side note, even in the global environment, there is a change in the partial payment model. In-game items such as battle passes in North America and Europe, the partial payment model is being accepted. In fact, all major game companies have a prolonged gavel period and an increase in input amount. In such a situation, in order to maximize profit, generating sales through live services like NCSoft will be the differentiator. By adjusting this well, avoid excessive pay to win. See, here they go on to say avoids pay to win. That's a blanket statement here, all encompassing, avoiding all pay to win. You go down here and they go on to state they're trying to avoid excessive pay to win. Very contrastingly different statements with regards to Throne and Liberty, literally within 2 sentences of one another. If the game quality is balanced, I think it will achieve great results in the global market, and that is very true. It has the potential to. Aion 2 is the most But why? Why is this a thing? Why does it have to be exclusively this? Why does a sequel to such an incredible MMO have to be a trash mobile MMO. NCSoft, have you guys learned nothing? You literally just discussed how your mobile earnings were down and how you've spent an exponential sum on advertising your shitty mobile games to no avail. This should be a cross-platform PC console MMO just like Throne and Liberty. Anyway, they're developing it on Unreal Engine 5. It is being developed based on simultaneous, so a worldwide release as well. It's too early to comment on the release date yet. We will have an opportunity to explain in detail later. The only information is known that Project E is an Oriental MMORPG that shares the worldview with Throne and Liberty. So just let me elaborate a little on that. When they announced Throne and Liberty, they said Throne and Liberty is going to be like a Western medieval themed MMO, and Project E, Project M, Project E is going to be set in the same time, but they're going to be set on opposite continents. So basically, this is the equivalent of if World of Warcraft were split into two different MMOs. One was called Kalimdor and one was called the Eastern Kingdoms, and each one operated independently of one another. That is essentially what Throne and Liberty and Project E are. A space will be prepared for the release of detailed information at a later date. I want you to wait until then. Project M is also a title under development targeting console release. We'd like to share additional information through a large preparation like a video. And then here they go on to elaborate more on Lineage W, Lineage M, Lineage 2M, NFT, their NFT strategies, play to earn models, trashy crypto. Yeah, let's completely gloss over that because I'm not interested in NFTs or crypto bullshit. A lot of this is actually pertaining to Lineage W, the success of Lineage W. Although they did go on to, they have a little bit more to say about Throne and Liberty here. Can you tell me the timing of the Throne and Liberty showcase? The trailer for the new movie will be released in the second half of this year. So it looks like we're gonna be getting a dedicated trailer sometime this year. They conducted a test in-house this week with more than 3,000 participants. This test will be extended outside of the company and will soon be presented to, so they're gonna be holding a beta test for us global gamers sometime this year, which is great news to hear. And that seems to be it. Aion 2, trashy mobile game. Throne and Liberty, potentially gonna have Amazon Game Studios as their publisher, and has also been delayed into the first half of 2023. Kinda good news, kinda bad news, but news nonetheless.